So the most impactful thing of starting a podcast, you got to get away from the perfection mindset. That's just a life lesson. If you wait for until something's perfect, it'll just never happen.
How do you define success?
Like success is leading, being led by God and leading in that order to the best of your ability. Very challenging to find a lot of examples in the Bible of dad, son following the God, Jesus, and then that even going further. It seems like there's always David, Solomon, all these judges, like Samuel, any spiritual giant that you could think of. There was a derailing that happened not too far from that thing. And of course, we're not responsible for our children's souls. They're independent, they're making decisions. But how can we set up our generations beyond us for success?
Welcome to the Christian Ambition Podcast. Today's guest is Kenny Johnson. He's a real estate investing fund manager. He also has his own podcast, the Invested Fathers Podcast. And you've done how many episodes now?
I think we're on 126.
126. So he is further along than I am. That's awesome. He also is a father of 3 and will be talking about various things. So yeah, what I guess one thing that was a curious question of mine is what is the most impactful or surprising thing that you've learned over the 125 episodes you've done?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, Sven. I was just saying earlier, I would actually probably prefer to be in your seat as the question asker, but I'm honored to be on your show and think it's a great topic and I think you're doing. So the most impactful thing of starting a podcast, you got to get away from the perfection mindset. And that's just a life lesson. If you wait until something's perfect, it'll just never happen. So the advice I was given in starting it was, obviously get prepped as best you can, but just go. And it's going to be really bad in the beginning. It will be really bad. And then it will be refined. And, you're not going to start with 1 million viewers anyway. So your, mom and girlfriend will listen to it for a little bit. And then they'll tell their friends and it will kind of grow, of course. So that was something that helped me start. And then in regards to the 126 episodes, what's impacted me, I think where my head was in the beginning was I want to make this thing huge and I want to grow all this base and they're all going to,
it's following.
This love of Kenny or, whatever this topic's going to be. I'm going to impact so many people. And what it's really become for me is a very intentional conversation with one person that I can be the recipient of. And that's been really my goal is to connect deeper with people. So, who's listening to it? You got someone in Shanghai and India, you can sort of see all the metrics and different things. And I hit my 5,000 download mark a few weeks ago. So to me, that's a small number, but it's I'm still celebrating that number.
Think about it, like that is actually quite insane. So yeah.
So I kind of quit thinking more about the size and more just can I connect with this one person in a really impactful way, connected way. And then if people, enjoy that content, they're going to keep listening. So I guess selfishly, I get to be, the one that connects. Yeah. And then if people want to, I always invite people to engage and send me messages or find me on LinkedIn, and they usually don't. But so at this point, I'm just enjoying the impact that I'm having with the speakers that I have on. So that's that.
Personal connection. It's where opportunities come from. It's how we learn in life. And so, yeah, it's great. And yeah, so how did you come to start the Invested Fathers? Because that is a specific topic, and that seems like there was thought put into that. And so how did you come to that topic?
When I turned 30, a lightning bolt moment happened for me of what am I doing with my life? So I've been working for a landscaper for 7 years at that point, and would classify myself coming out of college as directionless. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, which is a very scary feeling. I don't know if anyone can resonate out there with, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? That kind of like heavy question. So I had studied art and graphic design, but realized pretty much the day I graduated, I don't think I want to do graphic design. So I was afraid of being, trapped in this cubicle, behind a computer screen, sitting all day, when really what I enjoy is talking with people, connecting with people, serving people, figuring people out, just that sort of interpersonal communication. Yeah. So a buddy of mine's like, hey, I'm starting this company. I was engaged at the time. So all to say is I got on this track of landscaping and was doing everything from maintenance and project manager and sales and just sort of went along with the ride until I turned 30 and I realized, what are my next 10 years going to look like? So I'm 38 now. And part of that was I had a 3-year-old at home. I've been married for about 5 or 6 years and was just sort of evaluating all the life decisions I had made and my
so you
core
had your
values.
midlife crisis a little
Midlife
earlier than
crisis
you.
30. But it was the best thing for me though, because I really started asking those hard questions of, where do you want to go in life and where is your direction right now? And something that had been told to me, and maybe not even like verbally, but just the culture of growing up and being a man and being a husband is you need to provide for your family. So that was sort of in my mind is like, I'm just providing.
Yeah.
So me working 50, 60 hours a week, sort of coming home tired, but paying the bills, I'm providing for my family. And that's what, men do. And that's what Christians do. And where I missed it, I feel like, is I was not providing for my family's emotional needs, physical needs with my wife. And, she had some loneliness and some isolation. We're married for a few years and, baby now. So I had to step back and figure out, well, what do I do then? If it's not landscaping, what are my gifts? So this is sort of a long answer to your question of invested fathers, but fatherhood became sort of my flag of like, I want to be the dad that, was there, was present. And I also felt a burden for other dads of saying like, hey, how could number one, I need to become the dad I want to be.
Right.
And then could I help other dads along the way? So somewhere in there, real estate came into the picture, and raising capital for real estate was sort of where I landed in regards to this is really what I enjoy doing.
Because that connection part, talking to people.
Client relations, talking to others. Yes. Like how can this money, this investment impact you? Like what is the reason for this? Like all of that type of behind the why of investing. So I chose sort of the target audience of dads who are looking for more margin, specifically business owners. So that's sort of where the podcast was formed and created in my mind, and it's still forming and building, evolving today. Right? It's by no means a completed work, but I'm really enjoying it.
That's really cool. So directionless. I think there are a lot of college students, graduates, that it is like that. And for me, this podcast kind of is for myself 2 years ago, junior year or whatever. And it's like, I don't know exactly what the next stage of life is. It's easy to be in college, finish college, and then it's like, now what? Yeah. Did you
love that question? So, what are you going? So what are you going to do now that college is over? Like, just that. So what's next?
What's next? You're like,
that's the worst question.
It is. A lot of times it is. You're like, don't make me think about that. Do another year, maybe. I don't know. You did arts and graphic design. Do you wish you hadn't done college, or did you still get value from that?
Well, that's a good question. My son is 9, so that's a question that's actually sort of like brewing. It's like, do I want to be like pushing college for him? Because I mean, I would say most dads strive to get their kids through college. That's sort of one of those like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to have this saved so that my kid can go to college. Versus what I would say, I don't even know what the statistic is, but 90% of people leave college with debt and then are kind of working out of that for
and I think it's another really high number of people don't end up in their degree. In that field.
Yes. Yeah. I personally see a ton of value in college because I met my wife there. And it's the only time I feel like in my life where you have a bunch of similar aged individuals figuring life out. I mean, I would say I succeeded in the extracurriculars of college. So like the sports teams, the leadership teams, so
you got involved.
I was very involved.
Yeah.
And, social butterfly. Was I killing it on my grades? I finished with B's, which I would say was good. But by no means was I like top of class in my like studies. And that showed because I didn't really love graphic design anyway. Yeah. So I loved the like interconnection, and I feel like those connections, even today I have people that I, talk with from college. But is it essential? Is it something that I feel like everyone should do? I'm actually being turned on to what's called the gap year. I don't know. I mean, it's the gap year. It's not much to say about it other than you take a gap and don't go to college right away.
Yeah.
I think that could be a powerful year for people going into college or going into studies to say, you know what, let me just kind of figure out maybe a little bit who I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing, instead of just sort of being on the conveyor belt of life.
Be a little bit more intentional.
Yeah, be a little more intentional what
yeah.
you want to do. My freshman year was huge for me because I felt actually the most independence up to that point in life. I was on campus, Bob Jones,
Yeah.
living in the dorms, which people would say like, that's the prison, right? Like, how do you feel that was your most freedom? I felt, liberated to,
First time away from
choose,
home.
away from home,
100%,
choose what you want to do. You're going to go to lunch, you're going to sleep in, you're going to miss your class, you're going to go to practice, whatever it is. You decide what you're going to do. So that was huge. And then, but studies wise, unless you're like, I want to be a doctor or I want to be this thing,
Right.
I would say, yeah, I mean, you should probably get a degree and do that. If you want to be a business owner, maybe a little more entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
I think there are ways that maybe you don't need a degree for everything, but
leadership, the soft skills, the connections you build are probably still valuable to
Absolutely.
go for maybe a few years. Like maybe you don't actually have to finish the degree.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, or a shorter degree.
It's
Instead maybe like a 4-year thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see how my son will, as he gets older, because I don't know actually if I'm going to be pushing college right now or not.
We have another 9 years,
Have some time.
A lot of things in the world can change.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
9 years. Yeah. Yeah. So So what was that transition to real estate? How did you get interested in that? How did you learn about it? Because it is a pretty wide-ranging topic. There's so many different verticals inside real estate.
Hey, real quick, can you check that you are subscribed? It would mean the world to me. Thank you.
For anyone listening and they've shared that directionless feeling, you want to sort of step back and see, well, what am I good at? Like, where's my thrive zone? That's a Michael Hyatt term. But, where are you, what do you love doing? And you're just really good at it, just either naturally or you've just spent time doing it. That's your thrive zone. And what I loved doing in the landscaping world was connecting with the client, presenting these ideas to them, figuring out what it is they really wanted. Obviously you got to get the budget figured out. So that's a lot of one-on-one sort of just understanding the person. And I had experience in, the technical side of some plants and, what does well in the sun here and how much is this wall going to cost and what's it going to look like. And so I was able to sort of meld those. So when I came to this point of like this, midlife crisis here at age 30, I was like, well, if it's not landscaping, what is it?
Yeah.
And I ended up going to a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar. Robert Kiyosaki.
Was he there or was it?
He was not there.
Okay.
It was called Legacy Education.
Right.
This was 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
It's probably completely changed. In fact, I had all these books that were so dated actually, and how they told you how to, find houses and everything.
Yeah.
But I went to this seminar and there was a person that stood up on stage and more or less, it was a lady and she was like, I was a zero, now I'm a hero. I didn't have any, sort of understanding of how this worked, but now I have 20 houses and I make this much in passive income and I am a millionaire and all stuff. And I thought, man, like that sounds great. If she can do it, maybe I can do it. It's just that classic sales sort of approach. But I did see myself, you don't have to have a degree to buy a house. Now you need to have some things that you know about, but I love that idea of I didn't have to have this like formal education to do this job. And I think that was a limiting mindset kind of while I was in landscaping. It was like, well, if it's not landscaping, what is it? Because I thought, well, I guess I just have to, learn some degree, some skill.
Right.
And I feel like where my skill has been is in sales and customer service and relations with people, which maybe you have it or you don't. There's definitely some things you can learn to sharpen it. And I have failed in many ways with being a salesman so I learned a lot from failure actually.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, if I could connect with a seller who wanted to sell their house, a homeowner, and, get a contractor who I could, just kind of put the puzzle pieces together. Maybe I can make this work. So I sent some letters out, which is one of the things they say to do. And the Lord, after 3 letters, which they say like send 100 out and you might get like, 1 response. After 3 letters, one neighbor responded and said, let's meet. And I bought his house like 6 months later.
Wow. Yeah, that is really quick.
Or maybe it was like 2 or 3 months later. It happened very fast.
Yeah.
And one of your guys on the podcast was talking about, I don't care about what people think, I care about what they do.
Yeah.
And that's another lady had told me, you know, I don't care what you know, I care what you do.
Yeah.
So that idea of action to me was like, once you take that action and someone says yes to you, you're kind of on a track that, you know, you're not going back unless
Yeah.
you just quit or mess up, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was 6 years ago that happened. And I just kept it just snowballed a little bit in regards to buying houses. I bought 30 houses. I've raised probably $5 million in my like total, so from start to now.
Mhm.
So one thing sort of led to another. And I would say I prefer in the real estate world working with the investor to plug their sort of sleepy money or dead money or money
Sure.
that's on the sidelines into a high yield sort of real estate play.
Okay.
So that's where sort of I am now in real estate.
And so what are the key things you have to understand or be aware of before you go and try to buy that first house?
Loaded question, but you know, you have to, I mean, there's the good old fake it till you make it. So it's
Sure.
like, what do you know? What do you need to know in
Yeah.
order to, you know,
Not make
successfully
the
do this?
terrible mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You know, the best thing that you could do, I would say, is surround yourself with good counsel. And what that usually looks like is you're partnering with somebody that's been around the block to learn things. So what I tell people, if you want to get into real estate, is you either need to have a deal or you need to have money. So one of those will get you into real estate. And when I say money, it could even be access to money. So not even your money. It could be,
Right.
you know, rich uncle or, you know, friend's dad.
Mhm.
But there's a little bit of chicken and egg there, because let's just say someone says, yeah, I would give you $100,000 if you had a deal.
Yeah.
But then, well, you don't have a deal. So now you have to go rather find someone with a deal or find the deal yourself. And once you can sort of put those two things together, you can start building your track record. And that's what I say to new people too, is don't feel like you have to either be 50% owner in a JV deal, joint venture deal, or even have like a big role. Even just presenting a deal or presenting a rich uncle to a partner can get you in. And then once you're kind of in off the sidelines, new things happen and more deals happen and more investors come your way, because the rich uncle now has a buddy, and you know, so it just starts to sort of grow. But if you're always in an analysis paralysis stage or you know, learning stage, you'll get passed by.
So getting those connections, starting to talk to people, I assume you went to meetup groups and things. Is that?
There's a lot of things you can do. Did a ton of podcasts, did a ton of audiobooks, did the local real estate meetups.
Yep.
Made a few key connections in there, and then just started doing those letters. There's people called wholesalers out there who basically find off market deals and you buy deals from them. It's a much different market now than it was 6 years ago. So, you know, people say, oh, this market's oversaturated. You know, there's no good deals anymore. One of the best things you can do is sharpen your mind and get your mindset to get out of the excuse or victim or scarcity, all those things that basically say like, don't do it. The people that are abundance mindset, can do, how can I do this? Okay, I may not know how to do this, but who do I know that can do this? All of those problem solving mindset shifts are what will allow you to succeed. So, and I know it's very like, that's not like the nuts and bolts of buying property, but if you're already having huge doubts and run by fear, you're not going to make it anyway.
Right. So you have to at least have the positive mindset to go and start listening to those podcasts and finding those local REI groups.
Yeah. Start asking around. If you start telling people, I mean, Facebook, of course, has a million people trying to pull you toward them. But I think if you can find one or two people that you can connect with and then just try to serve that person who's an experienced operator in some way, it's almost like not too experienced, because if they're too big, you're kind of like nothing to them. But you know, a year or two or maybe 3 years ahead of you, those people you want to kind of try to find. Yeah. And then bring them deals or bring them maybe some opportunity for some money. And there's a lot we can say about that in regards to how to find these stuff, but it's all on YouTube.
There you go.
It's all out there.
That's a beautiful thing of this digital age. Education's up to you.
Yeah.
You're the limiting factor. So
yeah, you're not short on information for sure.
Yeah, it's the action, like you were saying before. That's you don't have to guard ideas anymore, because it's the implementation, the action that is the barrier now. So
you know, another thing that as we're inundated with AI, you know, we'll be replaced soon with this agent and stuff. Yeah, I find it. I'm skeptical to think that they will replace when you build a connection with somebody. You know, physically, like, or like, I'm with you, I see you, I showed up, we're eating together, whatever it is. I feel like that is something that will be very hard to replace. I'm not saying that, the one-to-many approach, having a podcast, people can listen to us and feel like they know us. So there is that. But to really have that connection where the person feels heard and understood, I find that to be very hard to replace through AI. So
Yeah.
I'd like to think that's where that's my specialty, or that's where I try to shine, is like those deeper connections with individuals, and to show them that I care, and to, actively listen, and sometimes just shut up, and which is the problem I sometimes have. But I'd like to think that can be a special gift that that people can utilize and not be replaced as AI takes over.
Yeah. So now you're getting into larger deals where you're the connector between investors, and are you also finding that big, I think it's apartments, is what you're investing in?
In the world of the hats that can be run through real estate, I don't find a lot of joy in managing the deal or finding the deal. So funding the deal is usually where I stay.
Okay.
So no to finding the deals or underwriting, where you're like analyzing, is this a deal or not?
Yeah.
There are people that's all they do, right?
Yeah.
And they're usually realtors or brokers or underwriters that just run the numbers. So I'm the guy who will take the busy professional or the busy business owner who has money on the sidelines, or he's investing in something, and give him access into a deal that is not really on market. He wouldn't have known about it because it's either out of state, or you have to sort of vet these teams, or if it's not in your backyard, it's a different market. All this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
So I'm the connector from that person, from that team to that investor, and I will create a fund. And if you can, more or less put together $1 million, or sometimes it's 500,000 as a minimum, then we're able to basically all be in on the deal, where I'm able to be a part of it by raising enough money I can cut myself in and give this person better returns than if he were to just go directly to the operator as well.
So you have current relationships with different operators that are always finding deals.
Yes.
And you know that they get good deals, and so they need funding, and then they come to you and say, hey, when's your next round?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And best time to start asking people for money is when you don't have a deal. So it's a relationship business.
Okay.
But I'm very slow to take on new teams. I actually have only raised for 3 at this point, and really one is my main team. And I'm talking to another team right now. But in my world, you want to be very slow to partner with individuals, because if I'm raising someone else, if I'm taking someone else's money, saying, hey, I'll protect this money, it's going to be in this thing. Of course, there's never a guarantee in this stuff, but it's a very serious position. I take it very seriously, and you want to do your research as best you can on track record. I have a method I put out, but I'm going to forget it now because I'm recording. But basically, you just want to, there's a whole system in how you due diligence teams, markets, etc.
Yeah. It's what is the structure actually of a fund? Is it the whole like general and limited partners, and is it LLC, or?
Could be very complicated per the deal. It's called the capital stack, is sort of how I've learned about it. But so let's say the deal is like $70 million, and you're going to be taking a piece of dirt. We're going to be building, a 300 unit apartment complex. So a lot there. Yeah. It's not your typical single family home. Yeah. Right. What's really interesting though, is what I just described is actually in some ways the same process as if you bought a piece of dirt and just put one house there. There's almost a ton of similarities in what you could correlate. It's just obviously on a much larger scale. And when you go into multifamily, which is what I raise for apartments, also multifamily is what they're called. The value of these apartments are not based on the finishes or the kitchen size or the square foot. It's based on the net operating income of the property. So it's actually a business. So when people buy an apartment complex, they're buying a business. How well is this business run? What are the rents? What are the costs to run, to keep this building lights on? And are there other rubs or things that give you income into this thing? And you evaluate the property from that. And what you can do is, by raising rents or adding, wash and dryer machines or doing different things to increase the net operating income, you actually force appreciation in this building. So all I have to say is you what's cool about real estate too is you don't have to buy it all in cash. You'll have banks lend on the debt. So if you raise, let's just say 30% equity. So if it's a $70 million project, it's $21 million. So you have to raise that. And then, so you either have fund managers like myself, put in 500,000 or $1 million. And then you have these sort of bigger players, either family offices or these like large entities that'll say, hey, we'll put in 10, but we want maybe like this type of return. So there's like, we call those co-GPs, general partners.
Okay.
That kind of get rather special returns, especially they have a different share class.
Yeah.
Because they're putting in a large chunk. So we got, $10 million of this thing, $5 million here. The retail investor can put in, we have a $2 million slot for them. We have some fund managers. So we have all this stack of who is putting in capital where. Then we have the debts, which is, the $45 million player.
Yeah.
And that order actually of where you are on the stack makes a big difference to some people because if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Who gets paid first?
Yeah.
And, what are the rules with that? So every limited partner player in that. So you have the limited partners and the general partners.
Yeah.
Limited partners, I want to say always, I'm pretty sure it's always like on every deal, they always get paid first. So if there's ever a distribution that goes out.
The limited get paid first.
The limited get paid first. So it protects the alignment of the, so, we got to get some money here because, we're doing the work. And there are fees that you can get as a general partner, the finder, the due diligence fee, and they'll get paid something in the very, very beginning. But in regards to distributions, like, hey, this thing is now built, it's now operating, the limited partners get paid first. And that keeps the alignment of...
it protects the smaller guys.
Yes.
Interesting. I did not know that.
And there's other things that
Sure.
you can be written in, but that's just one of the ways that works.
And are you usually selling the apartment and everybody gets paid out, or is it going to have an operator running it?
It depends on the play. Typically, it's a 5-year play, and the apartments will be sold once they're built. Sometimes we do a value add play where they're like run down apartments, or they have some issue with them that we can come in there, like renovate or do something, increase the net operating income, and then still usually they plan to sell. Typically, most people want their money in and out. And everyone has their own script. Some people want it tied up. I say tied up, but working for them for 10 years, 7 years. Personally, I feel like 5 years is a great number for what has to usually happen to create the margin of returns. And the margins of returns, they vary, but they're usually in the 22 to maybe 30% annual average return over those 5 years. So, that's usually what I shoot for flipping a house.
Right.
So to passively receive that,
you
put in $100,000 and you're getting, 22 to whatever, 30% of that each year for 5 years.
Compounding. Yeah.
So I usually say we aim to double your money in 5 years. There's some deals it's even more, 2.5 or more. So
passive right there, passive income. That's something from Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a great book. It helps show you that, like, oh, this is a thing. What are the differences between assets and liabilities and everything? Is passive income a real thing? Like, is it truly passive?
I got an episode that says, is passive investing too good to be true?
Yeah.
So, if you are where I was in regards to like, landscaper trying to, create passive income, I think there's a myth there of like, what is that? I started out thinking I want to buy 15 rentals.
Yeah.
I want to make $200 to $300 on each one in positive cash flow after all expenses are paid. And then I can just sit back and sort of relax and let everything sort of take care of itself, right? Just go to the mailbox once a month and get my check and that's it. So I say that that did not happen. That is not what actually happened. I do think that if you've run a business or created wealth or a hardworking professional and you're making, let's just say $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, I think you now actually have options in passive income. But until you're kind of making those, I feel like types of dollars, you are very active in creating your wealth.
Makes sense.
But the plays that would be, open to limited partners in these types of deals, usually you have to be an accredited investor, which means you're making $200K or more a year. That's an SEC regulation thing and term. But there are other deals that you don't have to be. And then, you put in $50K, it's your job to do your due diligence as an investor.
Sure.
So There's no guaranteed returns on these things. And anyone that tells you there is, be careful. But that due diligence process is huge. So that's your probably most active role, is vetting for yourself. How much do I trust Kenny with this?
Yeah.
And what has he done to vet this deal and these deals?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the investor who's kind of asking me those hard questions and getting in the dirt with me a little bit and like asking me, just hard questions. Cause I know, okay, like this is someone who's really serious and they usually have money to invest.
Yeah.
Versus like sort of the blind investor who's just like, yeah, I like you.
Yeah.
Here's 50K. And then something maybe happens and they're like, I wish I would have done this.
They're
Because
skittish, yeah.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 3 years, so I haven't necessarily seen everything, of course. But even in those 3 years, I have learned to sort of even vet the investor to say, like, who is this? Who is it I'm talking to right now in regards to seriousness, degree of capital to invest, and I still get surprises, of course.
Yep.
I think my largest investor has put in $300,000 into a deal, and then months before that, he had put in $200,000, and I'm just like, where are you getting all this money, buddy? Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But nothing has been fast with him, and he's asked a lot of questions, and I've done a lot of homework for him, and even like kind of gone beyond, I would say, the normal scope. But he's been a great investor.
There we go. Yeah. Do the diligence. So passive income is a thing at a high enough level.
It is
where you're able to just put the money in after you've done the due diligence.
Yes,
it is. Away from that.
It is, and it was a buzzword for me when I turned 30 as well. As I was seeking that passive income for myself.
Yeah.
Another term that I feel like was an idea, a buzz, was the ownership. How could I be an owner of something where I'm, receiving some benefits of something without clocking in and, doing the work? So those were big concepts and big ideas, those two things, passive income and ownership, that I felt very stuck in when I was 30, and have thus been able to act and become an owner of a business and part owner of deals and get some passive income.
Yeah. Passive income, ownership. And so house hacking type thing, you can't look at that and be like, oh, this is how I get passive income. That's still going to be very active in a way, but that's going to get you the skills to eventually get to the more passive levels.
I would say it's
a fair way to put it.
It's partial passive because I mean, you're living in there. So do you consider that a job? Like you're, putting up with a roommate or someone nearby. Maybe. So that could be considered work.
Okay.
But they are still, and house hacking, for maybe those that aren't aware of that term, you're paying the rent, but you either have a roommate or maybe a duplex where someone else is paying the rent as well, or paying you the rent. You have a discount for the mortgage, or maybe there's 3 or 4 units.
If you do really well, you can cover your mortgage free. Completely. Yeah.
So I think that's a phenomenal starting point for a lot of investors in just understanding. I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned from house hacking. You got to close on a house. You got to run your numbers.
Yeah.
You got to, see where am I positive on this? How much am I going to rent? This person is a human who is going to have a problem in some way. They're going to mess something up, or they're going to be late on a payment. How are you going to manage that? So there's just all these things that sort of you understand the roles of by starting that. Of course, you get a good renter or a good roommate, life can be good, but you still had to find that person, vet that person.
Yeah, I guess a big part of it is just like you have to put the work in vetting and doing the due diligence. Like that is a really big part of
timing.
Work.
I mean, got a good buddy, but you need to have it available at this point. There's usually like a 12-month lease, so it's like, who's going to be available at that point in time? And is this like something you're going to keep doing, or is this like a one-time thing? Because if you got to start thinking of it more like a business than just like, I got to, go on Facebook and find one of my college buddies to do this. But to me, it's all good. And if it's messy, that's even better because you're learning. 2 evictions in my landlord experience. They were awful experiences.
Okay.
And they actually forced me to say, you know what, how can I avoid this?
Yeah.
Well, we'll just get a property manager. You can still have an eviction with them. They're usually less, but that's really where I pivoted to capital raising, because I thought, I don't know if I want to manage 15, 30, 40, whatever houses that, was the original goal, was to get more and more houses.
Yeah.
Could I raise capital for these apartment complexes and still be involved in real estate, still be an owner, still have passive income without doing with that stuff?
Yeah. how do you define success?
You know, I realized last 20, 30 minutes how long we've been talking, and I haven't been tracking, but we haven't talked a lot about anything Christian. So, so when you ask me about success, that's a question that I think actually is sort of reshaped weekly, monthly, sometimes in regards to what I'm dealing with. To me, you know, there's the order of God leads me. I'm leading my family, which is my children, my wife first, and then my children, and then my impact, I would say, to other people, which I personally believe like my close proximity, so like my neighborhood, as well as my church, like local church community. And then from there, I guess you could even go like the global church,
Right.
you know, kids in China kind of stuff. But I feel like success is leading, being led by God and leading in that order to the best of your ability. And I started a leadership sort of book study with some guys maybe a year ago. 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell was the book that we chose. There's another book out there called The Intentional Father. So all that, the point is, you know, you have work to do. You've never arrived. So to me, if I'm able to lead and be led by God and lead those people, that is success. Providing for them, at least, you know, the family level, not just financially, which is where my head was only before I'd say age of 30 is like, I just need to make sure the bills are paid. That's all that matters.
Right.
But, you know, as your kids get older, you don't have kids yet, but the weight of leading them and modeling for them to make them men and women of Christ, to bring them up to be independent, it's a big deal. And it's one of the best jobs I've taken on that to me is the most rewarding. So not a clean definition of success, but that's where my mind goes in regards to what success looks like.
Yeah.
And I get pulled by thinking success is a dollar amount.
Sure.
When I reach this level of the bank account, or you know, houses under units under management, capital raised, you know, all these things that I am constantly seeing and comparing myself to with other entrepreneurs and fund managers, etc. I can get pulled very easily into like, this is success. This guy's raised $70 million last year. My goodness, he is crushing it. And God has humbled me and really put me in a position, I would say today, of let me be your everything. Let me feed you the manna that I will feed you today, provide for you. And then you serve and you just keep going. And it's not about you reaching this level of success through money. What have I called you to do today? Well, you might need to help your neighbor out today, this thing. And I have a really cool story I want to share because I wanted to make sure I shared this on the show because Christian ambition.
Yeah.
I go meet with this seller, Mary, and she's 75 years old. She's facing foreclosure. She's a mess. She's just emotionally, you know, I don't even know if she's on drugs. Like there's a lot going on with this lady, and you could just sort of see the emotional just intensity of this thing. And I wasn't really expecting that when I met with her. A friend of mine sort of brought me into this deal and wanted to present to her, you know, what I do and, you know, make an offer for her and everything to help her buy her property. Well, fast forward a few meetings, and her and I are praying together, telling her the gospel. I'm opening a Bible. I'm, you know, hugging her, and I just want to share. God puts opportunities or people in your way for a reason, and if we are blind to it or too busy, Good Samaritan passing by the person on the ground, you're gonna miss huge blessings. So I don't share this story. It sounds like I'm sharing this to like, great job, Kenny. You're the man. But it was a blessing that God has brought to me that has enabled me to utilize my faith in buying houses. And Mary and I haven't even like really finalized our deal, like, which is, you know, my whole point in showing up with her was like, I want to buy her property and help her. And it became a like opportunity to share the gospel. Yeah. So
staying aware of the people you're interacting with, and we are called to be light in the world. That should be that's above our work.
Exactly.
In a way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So having that order down right is important.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're not, you know, prayed up, or if you're not walking with God, or, you know, just keeping your head down, you're going to miss it. Yeah. You're going to miss those opportunities. And that's not why we're here. You know, and one of the things I love talking to older men, I love seeking counsel from people who are in their 50s, 60s plus. And almost every time it's prioritize your family, spend time with your kids when they're young, and money does not make you happy. And, it's easy to hear that and be like, well, you're rich. So, but you don't get time back.
Yeah.
And even in my life, I look at times where wealth or money was easy, or jobs, flips were easy, whatever it is. It didn't mean I was happy. It means certain things were easier. But when we're walking with the Lord, even in times of drought, we can experience joy.
Yeah.
So I think is what God wants for us, is to be joyful.
Yeah.
And to walk with him.
So how do you stay like motivated in your work? And a lot of times that has to do with, let's see if I can grow my units managed by this amount. So you are measuring it by that or by dollar signs. Is that a good way to stay motivated? But how do you do that while not making that your definition of success?
We had a baby 10 months ago. So a lot of my goals and metrics, KPIs, really went out the window. And I worked in an environment before, in the landscaping business, where it was really looked down upon. And this is, no knock on the business, but like, stay the course, stay steady, sort of no matter what. So you have a baby. Okay, like get back on track as soon as possible. And I think what I've rested in is, and also received, I'd say, counsel from older people in this, is like, there's going to be times that you're just not really doing well financially. Like you're struggling.
Yeah.
Like, because you are focusing on these things at home. Maybe your marriage, your kids, maybe your health, maybe, so certain things sort of get dropped off, I'd say, all the time in life. And it's not necessarily like every other day. It could be like this year, this thing happened.
Yeah.
These 3 months, this quarter, this thing happened.
Yeah.
For instance, like I'm working out every day. Well, sleep was rough. And like, I basically took a, 2-month hiatus. I'm just really not working out.
Yeah.
So do I just beat myself up about it? Or am I realizing, hey, you know what? I'm really focusing on this. So my mindset is positive here. I think where the danger comes in is where we go to the cave. That's what I call it, where you are a silo. You're not connecting with people. You don't have, coaches or mentors or accountability partners, or, you're just you're a silo, you're in the cave, and you're feeling down on yourself, and you're just kind of having a pity party. I think that's like the worst place you could be in. And instead, if you find times of drought or struggle, my encouragement would be, where are you succeeding though? There's got to be somewhere you're maybe your drought in the business taking a dip, but your presentness with your family is maybe at an all-time high. So are you just going to be Mr. Downer? It's going to affect your time with your family though. Versus like, you know what? Like I could be in the office or making these phone calls or doing another podcast, whatever it is, but I'm here and I need to just be actually excited about being in this thing. So I don't exactly remember what the question was, but how do you, I think you have to stay positive when certain things drop. And you got to be, and if you're a solopreneur, which is what I would say I am in a bad way, when you don't work, you're not making money.
Yeah.
I'm a self-employed business owner.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working on building a team, and I haven't arrived yet. So I'm not even going to speak into that.
Yeah.
But I see that as a problem for me, and want to be able to have the work continue even when I am, taking care of the family at home with a newborn. That's to me one of the biggest goals, is not necessarily like, get this high in bank account.
Yeah.
But like, can you automate certain things in your life where your job is not centered around you showing up and working? There's systems and processes.
That is the goal. Yeah.
That is the goal. That's freedom aspect.
Which I think that's like Kiyosaki's second book. Okay, what is
Cash Flow Quadrant?
Yes, Cash Flow Quadrant. Yes,
great book.
Yeah,
everyone needs to read it.
Yeah,
the
talks exactly about that. You're self-employed business owner, and then hopefully getting towards
business owner,
and then eventually investor. Yeah, yeah. So that's the whole quadrant. Yeah, and so being okay with actually dropping certain goals in certain seasons of life, because you have that correctly ordered family above work. And so in this season of life, this has to be the focus. And then in a different season of life, maybe that's when you start focusing on other things.
Yeah. The reason this worked for me was I had purchased 12 rentals up to this point in my life. When I say this point, like my daughter was born 5 years ago. My second daughter was born 10 months ago. So that had been my storehouse of, hey, if work's gonna drop off, we're gonna sell these, one by one. And this is not great advice financially for, what people should do, but it's what I did.
Mhm.
And it allowed me to have that freedom to make the choice to support my wife in times of need or be with the kids. We homeschool, all that good stuff,
Yeah.
because I had some of this money that I had worked for previously.
Yeah.
So this is not advice to say like, hey, just stop working if you don't feel like working.
Right. Yeah.
It's, well, we had some money saved in these things, and it hasn't necessarily been easy to convert these rentals into like flips, but I've done, and I've sold off almost all of them except 3 now to buy me time to be present and, serve in the church, not just drop off all these other things that I feel are important to me. And God has provided in every way.
Yeah.
So for that, praise to him, and you just keep getting out of bed and go for it. You can when you can, and have those goals, of course. But when things don't go right, as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, it's very easy to just
become isolated and just try to put your head down and work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a note about biblical wisdom. What are your thoughts on wealth? Biblical wealth.
It's a good thing. Biblical wisdom is a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
Biblical wealth. Okay. Something in the Bible, and this is a study I haven't completed, of course, but some themes that I've seen around this concept. Generational wealth. So the idea of like, the things you do, if it's passed down to your kids and your kids' kids, there's, and I don't have verses for this, but there's mentions that in the Bible, as well as generational sins and like consequences. So like something that you do today could actually affect your grandkids in regards to doing something wrong. And then the blessings, and I would say this is like in Psalms and Proverbs, but your blessings of your children's children. So when you say generational wealth, I think, okay, generations. So not just your generation, but the next couple. And it is very challenging to find a lot of examples in the Bible of dad, son following the gut, and then that even going further. It seems like there's always, David, Solomon, all these judges, it's like boom, Samuel, any spiritual giant that you could think of, there was a derailing that happened not too far from that thing. And of course, we're not responsible for our children's souls. They're independent, they're making decisions, but how can we set up our generations beyond us for success in following Christ? And that's kind of the heart of my podcast in regards to invested fathers. There's a play on word there with the invested, investing in real estate, investing in money, investing in your family. So if you're an invested father, you're really putting time and energy into your fatherhood for the sake of the returns of, I would say, your kids growing closer to Christ and then them raising a family. I'll drop a name here, Ed Sweeney with 3 Gen Ministries. He's a guy who's sort of local in the South Carolina area, really big into sort of what I'm saying in regards to like raising your sons into manhood, Christian, faith-based. But his whole ministries, 3 Gen Ministries, that's the name of it. That idea of like 3 generations following Christ, being a God, that's like his whole platform. And he has materials and programs and meetups and everything. So anyone out there sort of interested in these things, there's meetups about this. Real Man is one of the groups of for dads. And I don't know if your audience has a lot of dads or not. I know you just graduated, but I'm into that.
Very cool. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you think a lot about?
I talked a lot, and for anyone that's still listening, thank you. You've lasted this long. I think I'll just go back to that idea of providing. Because I think out of college, if someone were to say, what are your goals or like what's important to you right now, the number one thing would have been, I need to provide for my future family or for my family. That matters, and it is important. Providing financially is super important. It's in the Bible. There's money is a ton in the Bible. It matters.
And one stat that is a Dave Ramsey stat, actually, I think 70% of divorces are financial related. Like that's the core thing. And so it's like actually taking care of finances will help in your marriage and everything going forward too.
Yes. And I could say, so in that same note though, with finances being the problem, I was gone all the time in my early marriage because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be gone all the time. And I think that your 20s are a time to grind and work and like get at it, and you're useful and there's energy and you don't have kids and you can travel, all these things, like, live life fully. However, you need to be aware that maybe providing, especially for a young married couple, you need to be providing for the emotional and relationship needs that marriages have as well. And even if you did hit it big in your work, what does it matter if your marriage is just hanging on by a thread? And you say to yourself, well, I'll get to it when I get here. When I hit this much promotion or money, then I'll start really dating my wife or doing this thing. She may not be there. It may not still be there.
Yeah.
So my advice would be provide for your family, not just financially, but in your relationships and being present.
Great message to end on. And thank you for listening. This has been your guest, Kenny Johnson.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sven. Thanks for having me on.
No matter where you find this Christian Ambition podcast, if you get anything out of this, anything at all, please like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.